everyone, and welcome to the Ross A. Bespoke YouTube channel. Today we are interviewing luxury lifestyle royalty. This is a gentleman who's done everything that needs to be done in luxury lifestyle. Martin Higgins' book is called From Chaos to Calm. So he's a bit like a modern high net worth Mrs. Beeton, I think. Martin's company, House of Martin, provides a service that everyone should have. But I suppose that's a bit like Jeremy Clarkson reviewing a Bentley, saying everyone should have a Bentley. But certainly, as we are in the high net worth industry, and that's what it's about, I'm going to say it. It's a service that everyone should have. So, Martin, thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure. And thank you for your wonderful comments. I'm truly honoured. I love the bit about Mrs. Beeton. I'm thinking maybe, or even an English version of Martha Stewart, but without the prison sentence.
Whichever you prefer, yeah.
Mrs. Beeton's good. Yeah. Thank you.
That's brilliant. So, do you know what really struck me when when I've been stalking you on the internet is that you've always wanted to be a butler. Now, I know a lot of butlers, and genuinely, I think you're the first person that I've met who said they wanted to be a butler from the age of 7. Can you tell me a bit more about that?
It was actually possibly even the age of 4. I remember trying to describe to my mother that I wanted an evening tail suit at the age of 4, and I didn't quite know how to describe it. And then at the age of 7, I was literally running the house as the butler. So, even if we were just sitting down to a simple, bangers and mash supper, I'd be sat in the dining room, the silver, 7 courses of cutlery, the flowers, all of this business. And, we quite often had the house in the market. So, a couple of times a week, we'd have people turn up. And so, of course, literally, I was frantically in each room, plumping up cushions, tidying up the house, putting on papers away. And I got to such a skill that I could do it very quickly. And I think that was a great sort of thing to have at an early age, which has kept me in good stead for the future. But no, I don't quite know where it came from. I always was a complete addict for upstairs, downstairs. But I think it was before then. And I always loved looking around stately homes and beautiful places and furniture showrooms. So I think it must be my blood. I don't know. But, growing up in the early 70s, it wasn't quite a career that I thought existed. Growing up in just outside Birmingham in the Midlands. So I thought going to hotel management would be the next best thing. And then it wasn't until probably in the mid-80s, early 90s that I realised, hang on a second, actually, this is a career. And I think having that background in hotel management and working in hotels where, you work to a very high standard, and it doesn't matter what earth is going on behind the scenes, the level of service and the quality has to remain the same to the clients. I think, again, that was another good lesson learned at an early age. But yeah, I knew that was always what I wanted to do. And I think that's one thing I felt very, very grateful for, knowing where my vocation lie. And here I am still doing it.
Yeah, I mean, that's brilliant. I mean, I love it when people have a goal and I mean, you very much achieved that goal and you're still achieving it today. I mean, so you joined the team at Buckingham Palace in the 1990s. Did you join as under butler? Is that right? Or did you join as footman?
That's right. Yeah, it's actually a conversation that my father was having with a friend of his, and he just mentioned to my dad on the phone that there's a position he saw advertised at the Palace. So, oh, wonderful. So I think it was in the Caterer Hotel magazine. So I bought that, and I think that was on the Monday, and I sent off my application and had a reply on the Wednesday, wanted to see me on the Friday. So I went there and they offered me the job on the Monday. So it was all very, very quick. And then I started about 2 weeks later. And that first week, I think it was about a week, the first or second week in December. And it was just before the Royal Court was moving to Sandringham. And I started on the Monday, and on the Wednesday or Thursday, it was the Royal Ball. So seeing the palace lit up for a ball, my first week, it was quite incredible. And then I think my next most surreal recollection was I had to go and see the master of the household, or see his office to pick up some, I don't know, forms to sign, whatever it was. And the guy said, oh yeah, just go through there, and that was fine. I said, no, the Cat Palace is pretty much all closed. So I went through this one door, and that's in the picture gallery. I don't know if you've ever been inside the palace on one of the tours, but I'll have to take you, give an inside tour. And then opened another door, and I was in the state dining room. I thought, oh my gosh, you know. Opened the next door, and I was in the music room, another door, the white room, and opened all these doors. It was almost like being in a dream, where you had this wandering through this magnificent palace on your own. And it was like, yeah. Then I thought, this is it. I'm happy.
So you realised your boyhood dream, and got your dream.
I did. I very much did. Yeah, I think I always thought it'd be fun to live in a palace. I didn't really think it would be quite as a servant, but hey, it was perfect.
What was that like? So that was in the 1990s, yeah, that you were
yes. It was 1990 to 94. So, yeah, we went through a lot of the tumultuous stories in the press, and of course the Winds of Fire, and you know all that. But you know, so it was such a privilege, and you know, because in those days, obviously, the Queen Mother was alive, Princess Margaret, so it had the whole family were there, and you know, I think the best thing that I can say about working at the palace was that, you know, if you think about my educations in hotel management, so you did the 4 years there, and I always classed the palace being my apprenticeship. So there you get to work with the finest silver, the finest crystal, the finest gilt. You know how to handle these pieces. You're working with other professionals. You're learning how to serve the best people, you know, top people in the land. You know, you're exposed to all the celebrities, the heads of state, and you're working in these most magnificent surroundings. So going from there to pretty much any other situation, you're never going to be fazed by opening the door to, you know, the King of Tonga, for example, who knows? Because you've either met them before or, hey, you know, it's no big deal. And, you know, then I think having the confidence to work with these beautiful things, and also training in etiquette. So, you know, how to greet people, the right forms of address, that kind of stuff. So, you know, and again, it doesn't hurt having a Buckingham Palace on your CV, especially going to work for, you know, in another country such as America. They love it.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I have a couple of guys that work for me that work to the palace, and
oh yeah.
And people always like, especially like you say, Americans, they're like, that guy that you've got that worked to the palace, I want him working for me. He's got to be the best. You always get that.
Exactly. You know, but you know, and again, a lot of the time, I think just through experience, and it is, as you know, it's a very small network, and you know, having experience of working, you know, for, you know, the landed aristocracy, you know pretty much the best way of doing things. So, you know, you can go to many different households and many other butlers through the years, and each have their own interpretation of, you know, what's the right way of doing it. And there's nothing wrong with that. But having it coming from the palace, then you can actually say, well, this is how the Queen likes it. So even if you get into some kind of situation and you're not sure, so, well, madam, this is how the Queen used to do it, whether it was true or not. But.
Yeah, that trumps even like, well, I say trumps even the President of the United States. He can't argue with that's how the Queen does it, you know.
No, exactly. She'll get out of jail free card, you know.
Oh, that's fantastic. So I mean, that's you know. So I mean, your company. I've got to talk to you about your company, House of Martin. It just seems it's a brilliant way of solving a problem, because you solve a similar problem to what all butlers serve and what solve what my company does, but you do it in a completely different way, a very imaginative, very modern way. So please tell us a bit more about this company. It's brilliant.
Okay, thank you. Well, basically, I started off House Martin of London with the need to try and get myself out there to more clients. So instead of just working for one family, I thought, well, I love best working, solving issues and creating harmony in households, whether that's in training staff or solving current issues, or working with staff in issues of the fine elements of service or time management, or working together as a team, or even a lot of the times when families have a new residence and they've employed an interior designer who do a fantastic job. Generally, I can't say with everybody, but a lot of the time it's the practical elements of how a house works that fall by the way. So I love to go in and, as you know, any member of staff, we can work with anything and get the job done. I mean, but in terms of efficiency, if you see storage areas that need to be fixed, or a laundry which, might be generally too small, or kitchen organisation with not enough cabinets, or no ice machine, or not enough dishwasher, that's kind of thing I like to go in and try and solve. But on top of that, I think having worked in many households and chief of staff and head butler, whatever, running multiple residences, there seems to be same problems and same issues that crop up in every home, which generally you can always bring back to communication, either bad communication, lack of communication, not very good channels of communication. So I thought, how can we fix this? So we looked into the fact as well that there wasn't really any real piece of software that was dedicated to running homes. Obviously we have all the spreadsheets and the various apps, and I know obviously various companies with good inventories, but having everything on one platform. So as a principal, you don't need to keep calling your PA or your butler or your housekeeper, whatever it may be, to get a piece of information. And also as a member of staff, say if you're the PA in London and you're the housekeeper in LA, you've got an 8-hour time difference to get connected with information. So having, if it's by email, SMS or whatever. So we've created a piece of software which as a principal, you can log in and see all your information, whether it be your complete inventories, and this will be inventories, everything from artwork, furniture, linens, tableware, even down to toiletries and tissue paper. Because obviously, as we all know, if you've got, 4 or 5 houses, you've probably got about 5 or 6 bathrooms in each one. Do the maths. You've got sort of 30 to 40 bathrooms to keep stocked up. And even if you don't obviously keep the inventories completely up to date, at least you can have all your purchase information there. When it was purchased, you've got your expiration dates. You don't have to keep checking. And they've got wine inventories, calendar information, events. You can plan all your events on there. Everything from having your menus uploaded to guest information, which you can get from all your contacts. So everything is cross-referenceable. So we try to think of everything. So if you're a member of staff or a principal, all the information that you need for running your house is on one platform. So, we've kind of left the financials to one side, as I think there's plenty of the software that already, deals with that. We don't want to reinvent the wheel. And of course, that can also be added on to what we've constructed. But hopefully it'd be a very useful tool for almost any household to, aid the communication, the efficiency. And again, for a PA, you can log in and all the information is in front of you. You don't have to reorganize anything. Everybody's used to how the information is stored and how to use it. So perhaps if you're planning itinerary, and as a principal, you want to get your flight from London to New York, you've got your private plane. Even if it was arranged, a week in advance, we know it's going to change 10 times. So a lot of the time, as a PA, you've got to contact everybody from the principal, the house manager, the chauffeur, the pilot, and then again on the other end, the driver, the aviation company. But if you've got all that information and all those people on your site, all you have to do is keep the site updated with the latest changes. And as long as they log in, they've got it all there. They don't have to keep waiting for the message. You don't have to make sure that did you open the app? Do you know what's happening? It's all there for them. So hopefully it can revolutionize the industry.
I mean, it seems like a no-brainer to get it. I mean, I don't know if you saw it, but I did a video a couple of weeks ago about SOPs and all this for the house.
Yes.
And people were saying to me, oh, is there some designated software to specifically do this? And at the time, I did not know about your software. So I have to apologize to you, because I should have said, yes, there is, and put a link straight to you. And what I said is, oh no, you have to kind of make your own using different spreadsheets and stuff. But now I will retract that statement and say, yes, there's the perfect software, and here's where to get it from.
Thank you, Simon.
So, and speaking of software, you have an app as well, don't you?
Yes, I mean the software itself can be used on a normal laptop, computer, and we're doing an app version as well. So you can access whatever information is wherever you are, whatever time zone. And the great thing about it as well is that for the inventory section, I've actually used it doing this, and it's almost a joy doing inventory, where instead of having to take all the pictures and then upload them and then transfer them over, you can just take the picture and it's instantly on the site. And again, for the wine inventory, and we're trying to do this perhaps for other elements as well, that if you take a picture of the wine label, all the information is transferred directly into the program. So, again, that'd be the grape value, the grape variety, the type, the producer, all of that. And of course, the other thing which we want to use for the app and software is that, again, for a principal and PA, we know, there's so many different companies out there doing, supplying every service under the sun imaginable. And then you do a search on the internet, and again, who do you choose? So we want to use it as well as a site to give value to our clients who sign up. So perhaps we'll have on the travel section a travel company that we know are reputable and we've used and we can trust, so they can log on and be connected directly if they wanted to create a bespoke tour, or a private jet company. Or on the wine inventory, you can click on the wine if you have an order level, and that can be taken directly to our wine supplier, and he's got contacts all around the world, and then he can purchase or suggest wines from at cost from reputable suppliers where you know the provenance, and then you can choose, perhaps if the wine you pick doesn't quite have that same vintage, you can choose a different vintage which might be better or younger, whatever, or a different wine which is similar but a bit more expensive, another one which is a bit cheaper. So you can select those. So we want to try and have as much on there to make the organisation and efficiency of households as smooth as possible. I think even in smaller households where they only have a 1 or 2 staff, it might be that the principal can manage all this himself. Or if in larger establishments where you might have 2 or 3 PAs, it might be that now you only need 1. So the savings in staff costs, time, efficiency, and mistakes, can be invaluable. That's what we're hoping.
Yeah, I mean, it's a genius idea, to be honest. Certainly, when I was a house manager looking after multiple properties, etc., I would have loved to have that, because all of these things were on. We had some very elaborate spreadsheets,
yes.
But elaborate spreadsheets are troublesome just in themselves.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I think, we try to make it as user-friendly as possible. So, it's all the complications are taken on in the background. We've taken care of that. So, if you're the housekeeper and you want to log on to see, inventory levels, or when the family is coming to visit and what their preferences are, then you can do that, and it's very simple to do so. And again, certain information, perhaps if you've got as a primary user, which might be the principal and PA, all the information will be visible. For employee access, there's going to be limited visibility, so you won't see the values in the inventory section, or the calendars of the principals or family members or something like that. And again, we can create a bespoke system. So if certain members of staff need to see this, we can arrange that. And we can do a guest account. So if you're a guest staying at one of the residences, you can have access to the information about passcodes and Wi-Fi details and manuals. So again, if you're a principal, and I've known this happen, where you perhaps have 3 or 4 homes and you only visit one every, for the summer for a month a year, you go there, and of course, you have no idea how to operate the audio-visual system, put the aircon on, or if you have a new oven, you don't know how to put the oven on. And we've all been there. So again, with this, you can hopefully log onto your phone. You can get, oh yeah, this is the access code. So turn the alarm off at 11 o'clock at night when you arrive, because you've told all the staff to go home. And then, oh, I want some hot soup. How do you turn the oven on? People having to almost break up furniture to create a fire in the middle of the kitchen floor to warm up soup, So,
that reminds me of one of my former principals who once said to me, he said, "Oh, Simeon, why don't you just have the night off? You have the night off." And I was still in the house, and all the fire alarms went off. And obviously, I come sort of out of my little apartments, going like, "Oh, what's happened?" He tried to cook something, set fire to it, and he's like, "Don't worry, Simeon, you're never having a night off again." I was like, "Oh, great."
I remember another time I had to leave early, or the family was staying a bit later. So that's fine. We leave the next morning. That's no problem. We can. Oh, that's fine. So anyway, I was at the airport and I was at the gate, literally back to board, and the phone rang about 3 or 4 times. Each time was, okay, we need to do a bit of laundry. So literally I was sitting there in the lounge, and you open the door, and then you put the red button next to the blue button, you press that one, and then you turn. Everybody was looking and laughing. It was hysterical. But if you never use these things, it's a fact. You need to have a little tutorial or instructions. But lots of good stories.
So we've chatted about your literally the height of technology within the industry. Now I'm going to go back to one of the oldest forms of storing knowledge, and that's your book. So
yes,
I mentioned it in the intro there, mentioned your book. So it's From Chaos to Calm. Now, Please tell us a bit more about that.
Well, I wanted to write a book again to tell more about me and so Zach and Opera, so sent out there. But I realised in our industry there wasn't really a book for employers. And we all hear lots of horror stories about employers not treating staff correctly, or not doing this, not doing that. So I thought, well, obviously for old school people have had staff many generations, fine. But for new employers, or for people who perhaps have had a bit of a revolving door, there might be a little bit of knowledge that we probably think of as common sense that might be invaluable to them. So that, well, where do you start? So I think obviously you go right back to the employment process, how the right way to engage domestic staff. So of course, whether it's through an agency or a database or through writing an advertisement, whatever it may be. So try to explain us from the employer's point of view, the best way to engage staff. So, obviously you need to know who it is you actually need to begin with. I suppose if I'd love a butler, but then do you actually really need a butler? I think you probably need a head housekeeper or something like that. So explain the various roles, how to write an advert, how to conduct an interview, the little signs to look for, questions to ask, how to conduct a trial, how to write a proper professional contract, all about, and obviously employer pension responsibilities and all of that. And then, of course, following that with how to create and maintain a well-run home. So again, it's the, making good working environment. So, having good channels of communication, how to, give instruction, even how to reprimand, and all these different things, which, obviously, it's a very easy read, and hopefully it's more like a how-to book. So people can read, oh yeah, okay, do that, that's fine. But hopefully people can use that as a guide and as a beginning of the journey to, one, improve conditions in certain households for everybody, and again, create a harmonious environment for both the family and staff employed.
I'm definitely going to stand by my comparison to Mrs. Beaton there, because she did discuss very similar things. I mean, obviously, we don't have the same staff conditions now as they did in the 1800s, I'm glad to say. But, the basic principles of, things you were saying, how to organise, how to reprimand, all these kind of things are spot on, aren't they? They just don't change.
No, I think people don't change. It's just situations and technology. So again, obviously, job descriptions of certain members of staff, like the butler, the housekeeper, all that have changed over the years. But, it's still very much a hands-on service position. And, obviously it's all about faith, trust and respect. And again, it's like, gaining that level of trust and respect, you can't expect to have someone respect you if you don't respect them. And again, if people, think, just because someone's doing something a certain way, there's an interpretation there. There's always a story I'll never forget with one of my employees many years ago, and amazing lady. And, one thing she said, Martin, I hope people, my staff understand that in the morning, if I ignore them and don't say good morning, they understand it's nothing personal. I've got 9 staff in this apartment, and if I was to stop and say good morning, hello, and have a chat with every one of them, I wouldn't get out till midday, and my train of thought would be gone. And and I think, and relating that to the staff who thought, she's very off this morning. I said good morning, she ignored me. Said, okay, I get it. So again, there's that level of communication. And again, people always interpret things in the worst possible way. In as much, she didn't speak to me this morning. Then, what, I must have done something bad. Did I put the breakfast tray in the wrong position, or was it yesterday's newspaper I gave her? Always double. You always question yourself when there's really nothing there. It's just literally, it was something else that she was thinking of, or she was focused. So again, it's all these things which need to be explained, and then people don't second guess themselves or worry. Because again, if you worry about stuff, you can't do a good job as you would if you were in a happy environment.
Yeah.
So I think it's all about creating a good teamwork, time management, respecting both the family and your team members, and working a cohesive team.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's great advice. And it's something that I can definitely echo that, because I've heard that so many times. I've had people like, and the butlers and stuff who've been driving for the principal, and they've come back and they've said to me, they said, he didn't say a word to me for the whole 4-hour journey. Like, what have I done? Why didn't he speak to me? I'd be like, well, what was he doing? And they're like, he's on his laptop. I'm like, well, he's working. You're there to drive the car. You're not there to chat to him. Why would you expect him to necessarily?
That's right. And I think as well, there's, I think there can be a tendency, because obviously, we're working for generally important people who have got very busy lives and a lot of responsibility. And, they've got there through whatever ways. So they're generally very strong people. So we're generally obviously going to we want to do everything right the way they've asked it. But at the same time, we still have to gain information. So I think a lot of the time people are afraid to speak out if they're principals and said, well, we need this, this and this. And of course, the more you say, yes, we can do it, generally the more challenging some of the requests become. And they think, they always get it done. How about this? And then, they got that. Actually, I need this. So each time the level of demand increases until it gets to these ridiculous, look, Devil Wears Prada, perfect example, So I think being able to communicate effectively with your principal and say, well, you can do that. However, it's going to be this, this, and this. And always having a plan A, B, and C. So yes, we can do that, madam, but it will involve this, this, and this. However, if you thought about doing it this way, it would take this, this, this.
Yeah.
And okay, actually, that's perfect. Do whatever you want. as opposed to having this uproar and crazy thing going on, trying to find this one little element which really they didn't need anyway. And, you know, you get all hemped up and nothing else gets done and it gets crazy.
Yeah, but, I mean, I always say the worst thing to do is to be scared of your principal.
Yes.
And that just doesn't work because, like you say, you don't actually give them the best advice. They want a butler or any team member of the team to give them the best advice. And if it's just someone who's too scared to answer, that's not going to be the best.
Not at all, not at all. And, you know, again, we all know, you know, whether it's in you know, a private household or an hotel, whatever, you know, we're seeing, you know, respected people at their very best and at their very worst. And, you know, we're in the front line. So, you know, it's working with that and understanding that, you know, if they might bark at us and that's fine. They don't mean it personally. It's just venting their feelings. And, you know, they're in a home environment and hey, you know, we've got to, we've got to, you know, roll off our back like a water duck's back. Yeah. But, you know, I think obviously there are challenging moments and, you know, we do need that sort of quick 5 minutes to let out a scream at times. And, you know, we wouldn't be a human otherwise.
Yeah, my favourite analogy that I often say to people, I don't know if you watch Blackadder, but yes. Blackadder the Third, where he's the butler, and it's just this one bit where he's carrying the full, like, tea service on the tray, and he just walks into the pantry and just throws the whole tea service in the bin. And I think everyone's had that moment where they just want to throw the whole tea service in the bin.
Exactly. But, you know, I think that's life in general. I mean, you know, you have your good times, your bad times, and, you know, and I think in any, you know, closely knit team, if there wasn't upset or issues, it wouldn't be normal. And again, I think it's one of those things that it's generally only through mistakes and errors is when we learn. If everything was going smoothly, then hey, you know, where's the fun there? Yeah.
And if you never got upset about anything, it would probably demonstrate you didn't really care in the first place, wouldn't it?
Exactly. That's so true. That's so true. But you know, again, I think going back to the software as well, you know, I think if we can create an environment, and on the book, where, you know, everyone understands the situation, there's systems in place, everyone knows what their responsibilities are, everyone knows how to help each other out. And, you know, we know it's generally going to be long hours, long days, but if we can make that daily journey as pleasant, harmonious and organised and efficient as possible, then, you know, it's, you know, the amount of time that you spend at work is probably half of your life, if not more. So why not make that an enjoyable experience as possible, and reduce the stress and pressure as much as we can?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, you know, and like I said, I would never want to put anyone off private serving because it is brilliant. And like you say, any job, you're going to have those few minutes of being, you know, I would defy anyone to not have had that, whether they be a, you know, a doctor or a IT consultant or whatever. You know,
I know, and I think the best thing about it is, you know, every single day is different. You never know what's going to happen.
Every second
going to come, or what requests you're going to get asked, and it's every day is a challenge. And so, what's happening today? Well, bring it on, bring it on.
So we've chatted about what you've achieved, and you achieved your childhood dream at a very young age. You've gone on to do things which are very innovative, very, you know, you're the only person that I know in the industry doing this sort of thing. It's absolutely brilliant. You've written a book. Now, so what's left? What are you going to do next?
Well, funny enough, I think we were, well, I don't think it'll happen now after the pandemic, but we were talking about a possible TV show. As in chats with a producer in Hollywood about doing a reality show, more about training in etiquette and modern etiquette. You know, and if you imagine, I mean, I think etiquette is a word that people think of frown upon as being old-fashioned and all that rest of it. But really, etiquette exists in every kind of group, whether you are a member of the royal family or whether you're a Hell's Angel. You know, there's etiquette to each group that you're in. So, and I think being comfortable in any situation and making the people around you feel at ease and comfortable is what it's all about. So it was something where we wanted to help people who felt uncomfortable in public situations, whether they had to give a dinner afternoon speech or they'd had a raise and they had to now sort of meet their clients in you know, cocktail party scenarios, or whatever it may be. Perhaps they weren't dressing appropriately for certain occasions, all these different things where we want to help people to enjoy those experiences as opposed to feeling so apprehensive and nervous and sweating about it. But again, you know, which, you know, it's only through experience and knowing how, you know, meeting the Queen for the first time, for example, you know, everyone would be petrified. But if you know what to expect and what to do, then half they actually enjoy that experience, and the nerves go. So that was the sort of thing. But we'll see if that happens. I think now it's maybe a few years away if things ever get back to normal.
Well, I mean, I'd say love to watch it. So I'm hoping that happens. I think it sounds brilliant. It really does.
It'll be some fun.
I remember I was in, and this is certainly not something for me to brag about, but I remember I was in Ladette to Lady, which was
you really?
with,
fabulous.
Paul Burrell, again, nothing to brag about, but Paul Burrell was the main person in it, and I was like in the background. And I'm sorry to compare your show to that. The one's much better. I have no doubt.
No, the same kind of scenario where, you know, people who, you know, and actually it was interesting because with that show, there were a few of the girls who really understood at the end of it how they, I'm not going to say improve, but just how what they gained from those experiences, which, you know, is fantastic. And if that can just be the start of their journey from, you know, going on from there, then who knows where it can lead. So no, those things are I think it's very important, and it just, even if people don't take it any further, at least it's given them, it's opened a door to other possibilities, and you know what opportunities are out there and what they could achieve. So no, awesome.
Etiquette is hugely important. I might actually put it up. I did a little interview about etiquette on the BBC. Couple of years ago. I might put that on as well. But it's not it's not about replying to how do you do with how do you do. That's not what etiquette's really about. I mean, you could take it to an extreme. You could say not hitting someone in the face is a matter of etiquette because it is just a rule that we live by.
Yes. Yeah, I think it's always interesting speaking to Americans, and they always have this fear of English afternoon tea. And it's like, well, what do I do? Well, it's tea and cake, basically. But, you know, obviously there's things. But it's all about, you know, again, and if you were perhaps, you know, Duchess or whatever, having tea with somebody who, you know, I think there's a difference between etiquette and good manners. I think, and I love this, I think etiquette is knowing which fork to use for the salad. Not having good manners is putting it out.
I love that. That is so true.
Yeah, I think there's a wonderful story years ago with the Queen. I think it's quite well known, where obviously at a banquet she'll generally be served first, unless of course there's a visiting head of state, then they'll be served first and the Queen. So anybody who isn't quite used to dining in a formal situation would always look to the Queen and see what she did, and then they'd follow suit, which is normal. Anyway, you know, the meal is normal, and you know, the first course, the main course, and pudding, and then always finish with dessert fruit. and where I'm sure you know, you have your, your plate is, your beautiful hand-painted plate is presented with a doily, finger bowl, knife, fork, and spoon. And the idea is that the doily goes on the table with the finger bowl, knife, fork, and spoon going around, and then the footman would serve the fruit and cream and sugar. And it was, I think, the King of Tonga. And, of course, they served him first. And they put the plate down. And then I think they served grapes. I thought, okay, so put the grapes in the finger bowl, thinking they'd be washed. And, of course, the Queen followed suit, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
My only issue with that, though, I'm sure now, is when we went to a big dinner in Tonga, you probably have to be washing your grapes at the table. That's how the Queen did.
You do have to be careful with things like that. I did a dinner not that long ago, and we did a dinner, and the laird who was doing the dinner did like the address to the haggis, and I live in Scotland, and at the end he poured his whiskey onto the haggis and just said, "This is a Scottish tradition." Fair enough. The same guests then went to dinner at someone else's house at the haggis, and they saw the whiskey, and they were like, "We know what to do." They poured the whiskey on the haggis. That whiskey was like a £10,000 bottle of very expensive whiskey, and they just poured it onto the haggis.
You can see the laird in slow motion. Sort of.
But again, I think he showed very good manners and didn't say a word about it. So I probably shouldn't have spread that now, actually. I might have to edit that out.
No, exactly. There you go. So, yeah. But no, it's a fascinating subject. And, I think if, and again, in the modern age with, with the social media and stuff, it's almost a bit like the Wild West where, there's all sorts of levels of signing off and what's appropriate, what isn't appropriate. So again, that should be something which should be discussed as well. How many SMSs and emails do you send to somebody before you actually meet them for a coffee?
Yeah, well, at the moment, indefinite. You're not allowed to meet them there.
Well, no, exactly. Quite true.
Yeah, I mean, I tell you what, I've really, really enjoyed this interview. It's been such
thank you.
Such fun to chat with you. I'm really impressed with what you're doing, your company, everything about it. I think it's absolutely fantastic. So just quickly to finish, if anyone watching this, and I think they will, but if anyone watching this wants to get in contact with you or learn a bit more about you, what channels should they use?
Well, basically, my website is www.housemartinoflondon.com. And we have a second website devoted to the software program, which is www.housemartin.app. And all our contact details are on there. But, we also have social media channels, which you can also access from the websites. So, feel free. I'm available.
Fantastic, and I'm sure they will. So thank you so much, Martin Higgins. That was Martin Higgins speaking to me, Simeon Rosset. If you want to see some more interviews like this, please subscribe to the channel. There's quite a few more on here. And if we're very lucky, I might be able to persuade Martin to come back and say something else.
I'd love to. Thank you so much.
Right. Thank you, and you have a really lovely day. I'll speak to you soon.
And